WWE Royal Rumble, Saturday, February 1st.
The 2025 Royal Rumble event produced by WWE, one of their biggest events of the year. It's one of their big four, I guess, premium live events that they put on. This was the 38th Royal Rumble, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of their oldest events that they've produced, and this is officially the kickoff to the road to WrestleMania. If you watch professional wrestling, if you watch WWE, you know right now is kind of their playoff time. This is when things kick into high gear. The next couple of months really are a fast track to their biggest event, WrestleMania, which is going to go down in Las Vegas this year. But the Royal Rumble, of course, is where all of that starts to set things in motion and starts to set up different storylines and different things that are going to take place over the next few months. I actually got a chance to go to the Royal Rumble this year. This is my very first Royal Rumble. I've always wanted to go to this event. It's my favorite event in professional wrestling. I've watched every Royal Rumble event in history, and I've never gotten a chance to go. Had to make it a point to go down to Indianapolis this year. And so before we talk about the event and get into some of the details and the big things that happened, I just want to quickly talk about Indianapolis and just like what they did here, because I don't know if people know this or not. And again, you may not know this if you don't really tap in or watch professional wrestling, but one of the key important things about the Royal Rumble and just this event in Indianapolis this past weekend is that this is the first of a 3-event deal between the Indianapolis Sports Corporation and WWE. And they're also going to bring over the next few years WWE SummerSlam and WWE WrestleMania. So this is a huge deal. It's the first of its kind. WWE typically does not partner with an organization within the city. They typically come to the city and run everything themselves. But what they did with the Indiana Sports Corps this time was to actually create this agreement over the next, I think, 6 or 7 years to bring 3 of their biggest premium live events to the city. And Indianapolis, when I first heard this, I'm like, I don't know about that. I've been to Indy before, and I know it's actually a very, very well-known host city. I went before for a conference. There's tons of conferences. They always host, college championship games, like Big Ten games. They've hosted Olympic trials. They have hosted Super Bowls. They even previously hosted a WrestleMania, but it was long time ago, WrestleMania 7.
Yeah.
That was the last time that they actually hosted a big premium live event for the WWE. But this new 3-event deal is something that they're going to commit to for the next few years. And you can certainly feel the energy and tell. They had more than 70,000 people come to Indianapolis. The reports say that out of that 70,000, more than 70% of those people came from outside of the Indianapolis area to travel in. And what the city did for WWE was really, really impressive. As soon as you go to the airport, they had a table where fans can make signs and come in, because signs and taking signs to wrestling events has been a staple for a very long time now. So you can come in and make a custom sign. They had out-of-home billboards everywhere. They renamed 25 different city blocks after different wrestlers' names, things like John Cena Way and Bianca Belair Boulevard, and my personal favorites, Yeet Street. And
Yeet Street is hard.
Yeet Street is pretty good. And Cody Road was also pretty good.
Okay, yeah.
Very clever stuff there. So Indianapolis really went all out. But, I think it does kind of make a perfect host city, because it is somewhat compact in terms of everything in its location. The Gainsbridge Fieldhouse, where the Indiana Pacers play, is right next to the Indiana Convention Center, which is also connected and right next to Lucas Oil Stadium, which is where the big event went down. Everything is connected. Everything is super close. There might not be a ton to do in the city of Indianapolis, but if you're going there to host an event, if something big is coming to the city, it was kind of perfect, because everything is in very much close proximity, and you can tell the excitement was in the air. And when we got into that stadium at Lucas Oil, I mean, it was just an endless sea of people, just unbelievable.
Wow.
This was a reported attendance of 70,347 people. This officially makes it the largest gate for any single night event in WWE history, and it's only behind last year's WrestleMania 40 Saturday and Sunday for any single night gate. And I think it's also the largest crowd for a professional wrestling event in America that's not a WrestleMania. It was a lot of people in Indianapolis that came for this Royal Rumble. I think for many good reasons. It's considered, possibly one of the most star-studded in the history of the event. But it was truly a great showing, I think, for the city, and I think it instilled a lot of confidence for what they can do in the future with events like SummerSlam and WrestleMania. So I'm excited to see where they go. But what were your thoughts on just the event and just like everything that took place? We'll dive into some of the specifics here, but what were your thoughts and takeaways from the Royal Rumble event?
Oh man, Royal Rumble, Royal Rumble. You said it as well. This is definitely one of my favorite WWE events. I think, I'm just thinking as a youngin, you're like, how are all these people in the ring at the same time? I don't know. It's just one of those. It's just hard not to love it. In a way, if I had to get somebody into professional wrestling, I'd probably make them watch Royal Rumble, and I bet you I could win them over with it. It's just one of those events. But ever since our ball Paul Triple H, has taken over, I think WWE in so many ways. I think this was a Royal Rumble to look forward to. What would it look like? What would the production look like? You talking about stuff on the ground? What would all that stuff look like in Indianapolis? What is the feel? What is the energy coming into this thing? Especially, we know Vegas is going to be crazy, and the road to WrestleMania is all encompassing in that. So I know the Rumble is about to be crazy, and so I was really excited to watch this Rumble. I mean, the Netflix era of Raw is here. I mean, SmackDown. It's just so much energy that was surrounding this particular pay-per-view. But of course, WWE in general right now, I mean, the energy is at an all-time high. You just said it with all those numbers, with these people really coming out and watching this event. Like it doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie. And so I was really excited to watch it. And I think it was a pretty damn good Rumble, if you ask me. I really liked most of the show that went down, the things that happened and transpired. I mean, shoot, people was getting destroyed, which we'll talk about some more later. It was some insane stuff kind of going down at this year's Rumble, but I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed it a lot. I was lucky enough to go to a bar and watch it with friends. The whole bar was lit. It was just really a good time and a good watch this year at the Rumble, man. I really like the energy.
There was a lot of hype, a lot of anticipation, and it's hard sometimes when you have that level of anticipation, just the hopes that they could possibly even match and maybe exceed those levels of anticipation. I think for certain people it probably didn't hit those levels, but for a lot of folks it kind of did. I think after leaving the event and really truly thinking about it, I think the men's Royal Rumble match is going to go down as one of the all-time greats. And then the whole card as a whole, I think for the most part, a really, really, really solid show. Not perfect. Some things, that could have probably gone a little bit differently. Some things that could have been tweaked and done, better. But I think for the most part, people walked away from this event pretty happy, and they obviously did a lot of work to get this in a really good place, not only just from a presentation standpoint, because they really threw everything but the kitchen sink at this event to make it as big as possible with just all of the sponsorship deals, all of the partnerships and things that they had, but just from a storytelling standpoint, of course, for the people that watch the product every week, to try to pay off some of these stories and set things up, because we do know that this is a really important time to start to set things in motion for WrestleMania, because that's the big blow off for the entire year. And this is just such an important event to start to really make it more clear as to what the direction is going to be for the next few months. And I think for the most part, I give them a lot of credit for just, being able to pull off as many things as they did, still be able to surprise us in the ways that they did, because there were certain things that I was truly shocked by. And you can tell that the audience in attendance was absolutely shocked by. So I give them credit. I give them a lot of kudos for making a really, really satisfying Royal Rumble. But let's start off with the big match of the night, the men's Royal Rumble match. I mean, my goodness, the star power in this Royal Rumble, it's truly an all-timer. I put this match up there with 1990. I put it up there with 1992. I put it up there with 2001 and 2002, 2008. Those are Royal Rumbles where I look at the roster and I'm like, my goodness, this is loaded. And this year, it's in that conversation, I think, is one of the all-time great Royal Rumbles. It's officially the longest Royal Rumble match in history. It clocked in an hour and 20 minutes, so they had a lot going on, telling a lot of stories. But just the names and the people that arrived, everybody from CM Punk to Roman Reigns to Seth Rollins to a returning AJ Styles to Drew McIntyre to Logan Paul to Jey Uso, who ultimately won. The list just goes on and on and on. A truly deep roster of superstars, of people, which I think just kind of showcase the work that they've been able to do for the past few years in making everybody feel as big and as important as they should. But Jey Uso comes out, wins the match, a truly shocking moment, I think, for the vast majority of people watching. It is something that I don't think most people would have called, just because, respectfully to him, huge star, one of the biggest merch sellers in the company. But when you are in a Royal Rumble with names like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and CM Punk, everybody's like, and John Cena, of course, this is his retirement Rumble. Everybody's like, well, it has to be one of those guys. And it turns out they went in a different direction. Jey Uso has now been crowned the Royal Rumble champion of this year. He's going to go on and have a championship match at WrestleMania, likely against Gunther. I mean, thoughts on Jey Uso winning, thoughts on the entire Royal Rumble match, just like everything that led up until that moment. I mean, how are your emotions playing out when you ultimately realize, like, oh, it's dwindling down. Now we have the final 6. Now we have the final 3. Now, wait a second. Like, it's Jay and John. Like, what were you going through in your mind when you ultimately saw him pull out the victory at the end?
Oh man, there was so much here, man. It was a Rumble, which you can't overstate it enough. It was so star-studded, and I think a lot of people will argue coming into the night. I think number one most suspected winner was probably CM Punk. Everyone's like, CM Punk's probably going to win. CM Punk's probably going to win. And what's also interesting about this year's Rumble, to add on to the star power in the ring, there was like no surprises. You know what I'm saying? Like usually there was like 3 maybe surprises of people that came out. Usually we're like, dang, usually there's like a ton of surprises of people you're like, oh, I didn't know if they were coming. Everybody that came out was like, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. There wasn't a ton of surprises. And that's how I know the roster was as stacked as it was. And I'm like, no, you got to make room for all of these people who belong in the ring. And so that was already crazy enough. And so everybody that got added was like, oh man, this is insane. And when it dwindles down, it starts dwindling down. I think I started to think to myself, like, who does this make sense for? Like, I really started to think about that. Who actually needs a Rumble win? And I started thinking about, John Cena, of course. We know what he's setting out to do. We know what he's doing. But then I thought about it. I was like, they're probably going to want to put him in the chamber. I was like, he can't win the Rumble and then go be in the chamber. That doesn't make any sense. So I was like, this only in my I predicted probably around 6 people left. I was like, I think this might be Jay's time. And I was also thinking this is the one thing that Jay didn't have. You know what I mean? Like, you just say he had merch sales. He's super over right now. There's a lot going on for Jay right now. He was a workhorse. He's been workhorse in this industry for a very long time. He's been working his butt off. And so I think to see him in the ring with all these people in the end was like, this is interesting. You're the underdog, but I think this makes sense for you. And so I was really excited to see him and John Cena face off. And of course, everybody gets mad when Logan Paul comes out. I was like, oh my God, Logan Paul's here. What's going on? And so I think they did it correctly though, man. I think I was really happy with that, with Jay coming out on top. I think it makes a ton of sense. And I was rooting for him. I think after, again, towards the end, because in the beginning, I don't know what the heck's going on, but towards the end, I was like, I think this might be Jay's, and he pulled it out. I was really happy for him.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think a lot of people thought CM Punk was going to be the winner. He's been probably the most front and center in terms of the story and what they've been trying to tell with the Royal Rumble as the superstar who's kind of made it the most known. Like, I've never won this. I've never main evented WrestleMania. This is my time. I got injured last year. This is my comeback year to make this all finally happen for myself. I mean, hell, this was the event that ultimately caused him to leave the company 10 plus years ago. Like, it was this event looms large in his legacy and his lore. And he revealed this on Pat McAfee this past week. And I never really thought about this, but like, legally the Royal Rumble that he ultimately walked out on, it was tied up in like legal battles and stuff that he went through with WWE with previous lawsuits. And so this has a real personal history to him. So it felt like that was like, okay, this is making all the perfect sense. When I got on the ground in Indianapolis, all the energy was for John Cena. All the energy was for John Cena. So many people were like, Cena's winning. This is going to be his moment to finally main event WrestleMania once again. He's going to tie Stone Cold for the most Royal Rumble wins. It just makes sense to kick off this retirement tour. But as you said, they've been promoting him so heavily for Elimination Chamber that's going to be his last appearance in Toronto. It's like, well, why else would he be at Elimination Chamber if he's not competing in the match? So how would he win this match and go? It just didn't make sense. And so the moment that CM Punk got eliminated, I was like, uh-oh, they're doing something here. And I still wasn't quite sure because a small part of me, I hated to even feel this way, but a small part of me thought, like, there's no way they're going to make fucking Logan Paul win this match. I did think that for a split second.
Yeah.
I thought it for a split second because, I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to see that. It would have got incredible heat, but the guy is good. But then once
Yeah.
he got eliminated, it became even more clear. But I still had a hard time believing it. I was like, wait a second, like, is he really going to pull this out? And then he wins, and it was a huge moment. The place erupted and went crazy. But there's also been a different reaction as well. There are a lot of people who have been upset by this and think that maybe it doesn't make the most sense. And I would say it's probably more of a loud minority than the majority of people. I do think a lot of people enjoy this and they love Jey Uso and they love what he's been able to do for the past year plus since he's been on a singles run. But there is a contingent of fans out there who are saying, hey, this doesn't really make sense when you have the most star-studded Royal Rumble. How is it that this guy who respectfully is probably not at the same particular level as some of those other superstars, how does he pull out this win? And there's also been the conversation, the back and forth of, this is like finally somebody who's relatively new. I'm using this loosely because he's not a new superstar, but he's new in terms of a singles run. This is the first time in quite a while where we've had a Royal Rumble winner kind of be like a newer single star getting that ultra push potentially to a first world championship. Historically, a lot of these Royal Rumbles over the past 15 years or so, they've typically gone to like the bigger names, the legends, so to say. Even like part-timers who come in and don't wrestle full-time schedules. And so this is also kind of a surprise in that respect. But I mean, what are your thoughts on just like the controversy that's kind of bubbling up around this, just due to the fact that a lot of people didn't predict this. A lot of people did want Cena or Punk or even like other names like Roman Reigns, or hell, even Drew McIntyre was thrown out there a lot just because of the incredible year he had last year. What are your thoughts on just like the whole conversation and where this leaves the WrestleMania picture moving forward?
Man, I really like this decision a lot. I think we've been there, done that. Like you said, with the superstars winning here in the past. Cody Rhodes won back-to-back, Brock Lesnar, Edge, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. Like, we've seen these people win in and out. And I think that was the other thing. Like, if CM Punk won, I think I wouldn't have been mad for all the reasons you just said. The history he has with the Royal Rumble, he hasn't won one. I think that would have made sense. But on the flip side of things, in my head, I wish the Rumble operated like this more. Like, that's, to me, that's what it should be sometimes. It should be who needs that push to get to that main event for WrestleMania, and what are we going to do differently this year? And I think it's a welcome change for me, somebody who wanted to see not only something different, but for the Royal Rumble to be used for something like that. I think the Women's Rumble has been used for that a little bit more often. Like, let's push this superstar, this like new solo superstar towards one of these towards a championship match WrestleMania night, but not, like you said, not so much the men. And so I was like, I like this. Let's do something different. Let's shake it up. Jey Uso deserves it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the Discord, I think some people are also missing sight of what we're here for and what we're here to do. And we're here to tell not only really good stories, but but have good matches. And because Jey wins this, oh my God, Elimination Chamber is about to be nuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are not seeing the whole picture to me in my head. Like, are we sure? Are we looking at this thing in the complete package? I think they might be doing the right thing here. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel, man.
I mean, for a long time, a lot of wrestling fans have wanted the Royal Rumble to represent that catapult for a superstar to get to the next level. And I think historically in the past, prior to the 2010s, oftentimes it was kind of that vehicle to take a superstar and say like, hey, now's their time. We're going to give them this ultra mega push. They're probably going to get their first world championship at a WrestleMania, like truly making a star. And this is like the launching pad to get there. And for a long time, we kind of lost sight of that. And there have been exceptions. There have been a couple of years where that was not the case. Like Drew McIntyre did win in 2020, although he didn't win his championship in front of fans, unfortunately, because of COVID. And there have been other cases, but a lot of times, like it's gone to those really well-established veteran superstars who don't necessarily need it. And so it's interesting to see, some of the discourse go in the direction of like, oh no, John Cena should have won it, or Roman Reigns should have won it, or even CM Punk, who's not won it before, but he is very established.
Exactly.
He should have won it. When that is, sort of been, I think, on the contrary of what typically we've called for such a long time. And so I think that that's just kind of an interesting sort of dichotomy of like where things have gone. Maybe people just didn't want it to be Jay in particular, but so many
Mm,
people do love him, and he has just become such a notable face within the company. I mean, hell, he's walking out with all these rappers. He got Quavo and Travis Scott pulling up to
hmm.
Monday Night Raws, doing this whole yeet shit. Like everything is everywhere all the time,
Yeah.
and he has been there. It's not like he popped up yesterday. He's been with the
Hmm.
company for I think almost 15 years at this point. And so when the results ultimately happened and took place, I was like, oh fuck yes, this guy
But
certainly
yeah.
deserves
Hmm.
this moment. He's worked his ass off to get here and to prove himself and to make this incredible run as a single star. And I think it left me with questions about other superstars, but I think that that's the good thing about this whole conversation and this whole season is how unpredictable it's been. And
Yes.
oftentimes wrestling is not as exciting as it could be because it's too easy to predict sometimes, like, oh, they're going to
Hmm.
do that match and they're going to do that match. Whereas this year, that's not been the case. There's
Hmm.
just so many dominoes that have yet to fall where it's like, I don't know what match is going to take place with this guy or that guy, which leads me to like these other few folks who were eliminated, like Roman Reigns, like CM
Hmm.
Punk, like Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. What happens with them? Where do they go? Because I think coming into this match, we had suspicions about what could the main event be, what might that look like, and there's still a lot of questions because again, I
Yeah.
think it's likely Jay's going to go after Gunther. They've already been telling that story
Hmm.
for a few months, but where
Right.
does that leave guys like that? Especially considering the Cena aspect where he almost feels like kind of the shoe in to maybe win Chamber and
Hmm.
get that championship match. And so
Yeah.
let's just hypothetically say it's like Cena and Cody at WrestleMania. I mean, what
Yeah.
does Roman do? What does Seth do? What does CM Punk do when Las Vegas rolls around in April?
I think they've hit such an interesting stardom where these guys, in order for us to be entertained, I don't think they need to have a belt. Like the belt doesn't need to be involved in any of their matches. I think if they continue to tell a really fun, good story with these legendary wrestlers, like future Hall of Famers, just give us, I don't know, fatal four way, give us a triple threat, something. Like, to be honest, I'd be okay with that. Give us some crazy, insane match with these guys. And I honestly don't think a belt needs to be involved. I think John Cena and Cody can do their thing, and I think that's a good match in itself. You know what I mean? And so I think as long as the story is there, as long as they continue to banter and come back and forth. The end of that Rumble match was kind of crazy. I was like, wait, there's a lot going on here with these guys. Like, it wasn't like 2 minutes of them staring each other down. It was like they was whooping each other ass for like 5 minutes outside the ring. I said, what is happening here? So I think there's something there that they can brew on and stew on. And I don't think every good match has to have a belt behind it. And I think that's what's going to happen with Seth, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Roman Reigns. I think they are inching towards something that just doesn't need a belt, and I think that's okay.
They were telling like 6 different stories at once. It was
So
like my
many.
my mind was racing. I
Yeah.
mean, I think everybody in the stadium was like, "Wait a second," because we were processing obviously the moment that they were all eliminated. It's like, "Oh fuck." First,
Hmm.
Roman and Seth are out, and then CM Punk gets eliminated by Logan Paul. So just a pure shock of the moment. And then, as you said, a huge brawl breaks out. Seth Rollins delivers like the most nasty curb stomp to Roman
Ooh.
Reigns. It's like a double-footed curb stomp on the
Yeah.
floor. It looked serious. I mean, I thought Roman might have perished in that moment. Then the continuing story between Seth and CM Punk, that's obviously been brewing. Roman
Yep.
and Seth have just a decade plus worth of history. That's a
Hmm.
thing. This favor between CM Punk and Paul Heyman. There's a look that CM Punk exchanges with Paul at a moment's notice.
Hmm.
It's like, oh man, the possibilities are limitless. But
So many.
in the midst of the confusion, there's also just excitement because it's like, hey guys, look at all the incredible threads that we've been able to just weave week in and week out, all the stories and all the possibilities in which this can go. That's when it's at its best. And that's what really the roster of this Rumble looks like. As you mentioned, there
Hmm.
weren't too many surprises. I mean, Joe Hendry did come in, AJ Styles
Yeah.
returned, but they have historically added more people as returners or surprises, but they didn't have to do that this year because the
Yeah.
roster is just
Hmm.
so deep. And that's a great thing. That's not even an
Hmm.
issue. It's like that's something
That's
to be
great.
celebrated, and that's represented in this sort of semi main event or main event picture with these other superstars that don't have a championship belt, but they can easily still main event a night at WrestleMania, depending on the story that they tell, depending on the direction that they go in. So yeah, as you mentioned, I think Elimination Chamber is shaping up to be like a really really
It's finna
huge
be nuts.
a huge matchup. Probably they have to fill another stadium. They're going to the Rogers Center where the Blue Jays play, so you got to pack that thing out and get a lot of people. So you got to load up that chamber with the biggest stars possible. Let's talk about some other quick moments. That were big in this match. I mean, the most viral moment of the night, I Show Speed. subs into the Royal Rumble for Tozawa, who got attacked by Carmelo
He-
Hayes. It was unbelievable. He comes in wearing Crocs, helps eliminate Otis, does a backflip, and gets broken in half by Braun Breaker. It was the most ungodly hit I've ever seen on a human
oh my
being.
goodness.
Oh my God. And then it wasn't done. Braun Breaker, press slams him out the ring. Otis catches him and he does a standing fall away slam to ISHO Speed over the announce table. He walked away with a nasty gash on his leg. I mean, it was an incredible moment that had the stadium in an uproar, but you got to give credit to that dude for taking those bumps
Yeah.
because they were nasty. They did not pull any punches on that dude. He's a celebrity, essentially an influencer coming in and playing in the sandbox. But my God, what a huge moment for them and a huge takeaway. I think it's like their most viral video in Royal Rumble history. 300 million social media video views. I mean, I think everybody saw this thing because that hit was it was nasty.
Yeah, and shout out to Speed for I think being able to take a full-fledged spear from Braun Breaker. Like he bounced off both ropes before he speared him, dog. I'm like, and I know that's crazy because they did the whole Braun Breaker Roman Reigns thing too. It was just really cool, I think, to see Speed, I think, go out there, and he's had an incredible year. For people who don't know, I mean, he just got crowned like mayor of Peru somewhere. It's just Speed has been doing a lot. He's had an incredible year. And yeah, it's crazy, I think, of a moment to see him out there. Such a young dude too. I think he's like
Very young,
20 something. Like he's super young. Like, and yeah, it's crazy to see the stardom that he's reached, man. So yeah, what a great moment. And shout out to him for being able to take them bumps, man. It was impressive. It was impressive. I like it.
He's having a great year. Kai Cenata's also having a great year. You mentioned him earlier.
Yes,
he was present on the ground at the Royal Rumble too. He was streaming as well. He did not get in the ring because he had to probably make a flight to LA to get to the Grammy Awards. I mean, if he took a bump like Speed took from Braun Breaker, he might have been checked in at the local Indianapolis hospital for the night and missed the Grammys. And so I don't blame him for not getting in the ring, but he was also on the ground present. Another moment I want to just mention, it was more than a moment, but the Iron Man of the Royal Rumble match, Penta, lasted 42 minutes in the match, had an incredible showing. Penta was just phenomenal. Now, if you watch closely, my guy definitely eliminated himself in the opening few minutes of the match. When he was fighting Rey Mysterio, both fucking feet hit the floor. It's no debating it. Everybody in the stadium saw it. I'm sure everybody watching on Peacock and Netflix saw it. Like, it was like, oh my God, this could be catastrophic. But quickly, like the professionals that they are, I think it was Wade Barrett on the announce team. He was like, oh, it was only 1 foot. It was only 1 foot. They quickly cut away. They took care of him in that match because they knew, like, oh no, he's supposed to be in here for a very long time. He can't just leave the match. There's a lot of spots that they have to plan. But Penta, I mean, this is like his third week in WWE. Just what an incredible wrestler, an incredible legendary luchador. He's one half of the Lucha Brothers. Hopefully Ray Phoenix can get over here really soon. But I've loved Penta for so many years. I mean, his work in AEW, his work in Lucha Underground, they're treating him like a superstar now. They are giving him just like the red carpet rollout ever since he debuted in WWE. And this Royal Rumble showing was no less because he lasted longer than anybody, had a lot of memorable spots. Started off with Rey Mysterio, potential dream match setup scenario right there. Thoughts and takeaways from just like Penta and just what he was able to accomplish at the event.
Just happy to see him here, man. Penta has so much, I think, charisma. It's really interesting to see what he can do to a crowd. Like every time it's time for the match to focus on Penta, my ears always perk up. I always get excited, like, oh shoot, what's Penta going to do? And I think that's really impressive of a superstar. But I'm glad they wrote out the red carpet. I like that we're not pretending like Penta's like this new dude on the block. It's like, no, this dude's been around and he's really good at what he does. What a really cool luchador. His match is just so iconic, and so to see him and Ray start the match was really dope for me. Of course, in my head, I'll be thinking of dream match. I'm over here like, okay, so if we get Ray in here, if we get Dragon Lee in here, if we get Axiom in here, if we get all these luchas to just wrestle together in a match, I would actually really love it. I think it'd be dope because they're all really tight, man. But yeah, shout out to Penta. He's so dope. That boy said Cero Miedo like 18 times, but I was here for it every single time. I was like, yeah, let's do it, man. But yeah, I love his energy, man. I really love that he's here, and I can't wait to see what they do with him in these next couple months. To be honest, I think he's going to do some stuff.
His entire was incredible. That blue that he had on just looked so great. It looked so excellent on the presentation on TV. There was a small moment you could potentially miss it if you just looked away or weren't paying attention. But there was a small moment, and this is why the Royal Rumble is my favorite event, because the possibilities of what could happen is just like always so random. But right before Shinsuke comes out, there's a moment where Penta and Roman Reigns are working together. Like Roman is launching him in the turnbuckle, and Penta's doing like a standing drop kick to people
Mhm.
that are, nestled up against the turnbuckle. And I'm like, Roman and Penta are just working together casually. Like Roman looks at him and
Yeah.
signals. He's like, come on, let's do this. And I'm just like, that's just the unpredictability, the craziness of the Rumble, because you'll never see nothing like they probably won't ever cross paths any other
Yeah.
time throughout the
Mhm.
calendar year except now. But that's why it's just such an amazing event. Let's talk about the Women's Royal Rumble. I will say for this one, this match was okay. It wasn't
Mhm.
my favorite, and I think for a lot of people, Charlotte Flair, she was the winner. Many people predicted this. She was returning. She's been out for over a year.
Yeah.
Some people thinks it makes a lot of sense. I mean, people are speculating she's
Mhm.
probably going to face Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania. Obviously, maybe some detractors are looking like, well, Charlotte, you are, the most accomplished women's wrestler of all time. This is super predictable. Did you need to win? But I don't know. Where did you stand on that? Where did you stand on the end result, her winning, and just your overall thoughts on the Women's Royal Rumble match from the night?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I kind of feel the same way. Like it was when I was looking at the women's roster and all the storylines, all the plot lines that was going on, it kind of her winning kind of made the most sense. I was just like, yeah, I guess Charlotte kind of makes the most sense here. If you want to bring her back, if you want her for her to be important, if you want her to headline one of those WrestleManias, I think this makes sense. How do we send her into the stratosphere without having to do all that? I think extra work of storylines and plot lines and through lines. And so yeah, I thought it made a ton of sense. And like you said, it wasn't a perfect women's rumble, but it was fine. It was cool. It was a couple moments that I enjoyed. What's great, the women's roster is also starting to get it's starting to also come to the point where it's like not too many surprises. You know what I mean? It's like, man, we started to get stacked on the women's side. I don't know. I expected maybe one or two more surprises. Like, of course, everybody was talking about AJ. A lot of people were talking about, Becky might show up, but I was fine with everything that happened. I think, and again, I know a lot of people were disappointed about Charlotte, but I'm also like, nah, this thing is what also makes the most sense. So hopefully they can also have a fire chamber on the women's side. I think they will. I think there's still a lot to do, a lot of work to do on the women's side to get us to WrestleMania, but I think they're working with something. I think Charlotte was the right choice.
Yeah, I couldn't. Charlotte it just made all the sense in the world.
Yeah, it made too
It
much
was
sense.
it was kind of the Cody treatment. When he got injured and when he came back after the injury and he was in the Royal Rumble and they announced it and he was also like towards the end of the match. It's just like, yeah, they're setting him up to have a really really hot couple of months to get him to the
Mhm.
Mania main event. Charlotte's the same way. So I was never surprised and never thought that it was going to go any different direction. Sometimes I think predictable can be fine and okay. And if anybody's going to be the first two-time Royal Rumble winner on the women's side, like she does make, I think, the most sense out of
Yeah.
anybody. I will call out, like in terms of like one of the things that I didn't really enjoy, like for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the match, man, there was a big hesitation to just like actually get people out of the ring. Like it was stacked
Mm.
up with a lot of superstars at one point. Like nobody
Yeah,
was being eliminated, and I love that they added that tracker this year. You could see who was active, who had been
I
eliminated,
did like that.
who the
Yeah.
next entrant was going to be. That was a really nice touch. But there was one point where there were just like 16 or 17 superstars in the ring, and it's like, yo, get some fuckers out of this ring. And it
Right.
resulted in a moment towards the end of the match where Nia
Naya.
Jax eliminated like 7 people at the same time, and you had
Yeah.
these really unceremonious eliminations for Bianca and for Io. It's
Mhm.
like, these are big stars. They should probably have bigger moments to help
Mhm.
tell some stories. But when they just get tossed out amongst like 7 other people, you can't really tell a story that way because it's just like chaos and commotion. So I
I
thought that
agree.
that was a bit of a missed opportunity. But on the positive side, they had a lot of NXT call ups, which I thought was really cool. Stephanie Vaquer
Mhm.
showed up, Jada Parker,
Yes.
Lash Legend,
Yeah.
and Roxanne Perez, Iron Woman of the match, had the biggest and longest showing. I think it's a record. She lasted an hour and 7 minutes in the match. She was the runner up. Last one that
Mhm.
got tossed out by Charlotte. So just a huge, bright future for NXT in the women's division. They arguably have the best women's division, even better than the main roster, just the
Yeah.
competitive nature of what's going on right now. So I think that
Mhm.
they all had a really impressive showing. Anything you want to say just about like some of those new faces that popped up and got, their first or second opportunity to participate in this Royal Rumble match?
No, man. I think I just really am still excited about the future of the women's division in NXT and the main roster, man. Like, there's just so much there that they can do. Shoot, Julia, and you talked about Stephanie Vaquer. It's just like there's a ton that they can do, and I'm excited for it, man. Even seeing Jordan Grace again was just like, ooh, it's time. You know, Jordan Grace, I think, officially signed with WWE, so it's just like, I don't know, there's a lot that's about to go down in that women's division, man. I'm really excited for everything there. So yeah, I think they're stacked now, and I think it's just time for them to tell some stories. That's really it. Like, they just need time in the women's division now. Like, give them some time, let them wrestle. Shout out to Jada Parker for showing up too. Yes, Jada Parker. But yeah, bro, what just an amazing, I think, showing for those NXT girls. Like you said, I was impressed, but I was happy that they brought a lot of those girls in. I was like, yeah, you deserve this. Welcome to the Royal Rumble, and I think that was dope.
Especially those 5 in particular. Like, if you're going to call up any 5, the only other one I probably would add in would be Kalani. But the rest of these other women, I'm like, yeah. And I felt very validated, because I do watch a lot of NXT, and a lot of people in my section, when their music came on, they didn't really know that. They would see me cheering. Like, I'm hyped for Lash. I'm hyped for Jada. I'm like, these black women too, so I'm just gonna be cheering.
Like, y'all don't know Lash,
and they didn't know, and I had to. They were like, "Are they from TNA?" And I'm like, "No, they're on NXT." And so it's cool to also just see them get that exposure too, because now they're probably going to catch new eyeballs and new fans that they didn't previously have because of this. And so they all just had great showings. Also, shout out to Chelsea Green. My goodness.
Oh my God,
what a performer! I mean, deserves the United States Championship. That moment in the middle of the ring when it was all the black women and she just like walked in, it made me laugh legitimately out loud, because I'm like, Chelsea she just fucking gets it. Like, she just really understands and like knows her character so well. But overall, it was solid. Anything else you want to say about the event? I know there were also 2 other matches, the 2 out of 3 falls match between DIY, Motor City Machine Guns, and then of course the ladder match between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, sort of blowing off their big feud that they've been having over the past few months. Any other notes or things you want to talk about with those other 2 matches that took place?
Not too much. Motor City Machine Guns, them boys know they can wrestle. I just love watching them. Incredible. I always have loved watching them. It's just like, I remember when the match got set, I was like, yes, this is going to be such a good match, man. And DIY, I've never completely disliked DIY. That's not it. But I think they've been winning me over more and more they wrestle. Like, the more they go against Motor City Machine Guns, I'm like, dang, y'all kind of going crazy over here, DIY. So I'm starting to like them a little bit more as well, man. But yeah, I oh my God, the stuff with the Street Profits, sign me up. That's all I'll say.
Finally getting some edge and getting some attitude to their characters.
Where's this been?
They needed that for sure. Yeah,
they needed it, because it's just like, what are we doing? They've been workhorsing for so long. It's almost like they were like, all right, y'all, we got to put you in the background for a little bit, but they're back. I love to see it. They feel heely. I'm down for heel Street Profits. I honestly can't wait. Montez looks crazy, by the way. I don't know. He just continues to get even more shredded than he was the last time I seen him. It doesn't make any sense. I'm like, how do you look like that? But whatever, man. That dude Montez is nuts. And then Cody and KO beat each other's ass. That's all I'm going to, like, I don't even have too much to say. I was like, is Kevin Owens okay? Like, I was legitimately concerned for KO by the end of that match. I'm like, I can't tell, are we still performing here, or is this like, there were several moments I'm like, y'all, this is nuts. Like, what is going on? What a tremendous match. Yeah, they killed it. Those are 2 really good off Royal Rumble matches. Very proud of what they did. Like, they killed those 2 matches. I thought it was great.
That ladder match was attempted murder. Oh my goodness. It was,
oh my God.
It was unbelievable. There's several different types of ladder matches that you can do. We've seen the spot fests. We've seen the incredibly dangerous stuff that have happened in TLCs. Obviously, Hardy's, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys sort of perfected that and brought that to the forefront. And then there's also like some of those more acrobatic, athletic style ladder matches, like the throwbacks, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, just, using the ladder in really creative ways. This ladder match was like, we're trying to end each other permanently. I'm trying to end you. That's how we're going to use the ladder. It's not going to be these crazy spots, jumping off the top or going through a table per se. It's like, no, we're using this as a weapon to brutalize and maim the opponent. The backdrop that Kevin Owens took on that ladder when it was laying ajar on the mat was, I mean, his spine, I couldn't. I got chills when it happened.
Yeah.
The suplex onto the ladder that Cody took. And then that was nasty. And then finally that Alabama slam from Cody to Kevin Owens through the ladder. I thought it was over. I'm like, this guy, send him away, take him to the hospital. We won't see him for 3 months. Like, it was nasty. And I felt so bad because there was a little boy next to me huge
Oh
Cody fan,
no.
huge Cody fan. And when Cody took that suplex, I mean, and he was out, and the trainers
Mhm.
came out and the refs came out. It looked like they might have stopped the match. I mean, he was not in good shape. That little boy
Going through
was
it, huh?
he was going through it, and his parents were trying to reassure him, just like, just give him a second, he'll be back up, he'll be back up. I was like, oh my god, this is what it feels
Oof.
like to be a kid watching your favorite
Yeah.
superstar get fucking pummeled in the ring. But yeah, shout out to those guys. They put on an incredible ladder match. It was really a sight to see. So a great feud overall. I think that
Yeah.
they did what they needed
Really
to do
good.
to set it up, to get Cody to Mania, and to obviously make Kevin, look even stronger and make him even more of a
Mhm.
great character than he already is. And so, yeah, overall, really, really solid event that is getting stuff super exciting for the road to WrestleMania. But folks, wrestling fans out there, if you got a chance to check out the Royal Rumble this past weekend, hit us up and let us know what you think about it.